Hey folks, Evil Viking 13 here, and after spending a few days with Battlefield 3 Aftermath, it's time for a full review. Let's start off by talking about the new maps in Battlefield 3 Aftermath. There are 4 new maps in this DLC, and they include Azita Palace, Tala Market, Marquez Monolith, and Epicenter. And one thing that really impressed me with these 4 new maps is, every single one of the game modes feels like the map was built just for that game mode. Whether you're playing Rush, Conquest, Conquest Large, Scavenger, the maps are customized for each mode in a way that just kind of stands out from previous DLCs. It really feels like these maps were built for every mode that you play them on. For those of you that watch my Battlefield 3 Silence in the Storm slow motion videos, you already know that this Frostbite 2 engine is incredibly powerful, and DICE has just done really well with the visuals for Battlefield 3. But visually, the maps in Aftermath take it to like a whole different level. I mean, even as a level designer myself, I'm looking at these maps, and the amount of micro detail just packed into these maps is incredible. It's almost visually overwhelming. Honestly, it's hard for me to spot enemies sometimes because there's just so much debris and shadow detail and smoke and fire and dust. These maps feel like real places, and overall they're just incredibly impressive. Occasionally on some of the maps you'll even have small little aftershocks which make your aiming down the sights shakier, making it harder to hit enemies at distance, and after the aftershock kind of passes by, dust falls from the buildings and you hear distant car alarms going off. Just really cool details. Besides the 4 new maps, Battlefield 3 Aftermath also includes 1 new weapon, the crossbow, with a couple different variants of it. It also includes 3 new vehicles which are kind of customized for this post-earthquake feel that DICE is going for in this DLC. And there's also a new game mode, Scavenger, which you guys saw a few days ago on my channel. There's not a whole lot to say about the new vehicles, the Barsuk for the Russians, the Phoenix for the Americans, and the Rhino for both teams, I believe, other than they fit the theme of the maps perfectly, they fit the gameplay of the maps perfectly, and they're a lot of fun to use. They seem to have kind of like a bouncier shock system, which is cool to see them kind of hopping around all the debris in these new maps. The new mode, Scavenger, is a lot of fun as well. You spawn with a pistol of your choice, and then you have to run around the map and look for weapons that spawn on the ground, pick them up, and fight until they're empty. And when they're empty, you can either change weapons, go back to your pistol, or search for ammo crates that are hidden throughout the map to refill your magazines for the gun that you have. This mode kind of reminds me of Gunmaster, but more of like a team-based mode. And I find that it's a bit more fun than Gunmaster in most cases because you're actually working together as a team. There are also flags to capture in Scavenger mode, and they work kind of like the Conquest Domination flags where they are captured pretty quickly. And finally we come to the only weapon that was actually added in Aftermath, and that is the crossbow. By default, it's just a simple crossbow, not great at range, but also pretty good hip firing, that sort of thing, Cobra scope. And there is also a crossbow with a 7x scope. The default bolt that works with the crossbow has a pretty significant drop and is not going to be great at killing people at distance. There are 3 other crossbow bolts that you can unlock, and they include the balanced bolt, which allows it to travel further and more accurately. There is the scan bolt, which once fired will stick and actually spot enemies in a radius around it. And of course the explosive bolt, which, I mean, come on, who would not want an explosive crossbow bolt? That's just awesome. The crossbow also replaces the default gadget for the class that you're playing as. So for example, that would be your C4 if you were using the crossbow as a support player, or it would be your motion sensor or SOFLAM as the recon class. Now, I don't have a whole lot to say about the crossbow at this point. I'm going to save that for a future video just about the crossbow. But after playing with it quite a bit this week, I will say that it is a fun weapon. It's kind of more of a skill-based weapon because of the unique drop that it has. It's not really a game changer. It's not like a weapon you're going to be running around with constantly. It's just kind of a fun weapon. And even though it's the only weapon that we got with Aftermath, I like it, and I'm glad that DICE decided to include it. So that's the feature set for Battlefield 3 Aftermath. So what are my final thoughts on this DLC? Well, I've seen a lot of people saying that this is, the best DLC since Back to Karkand, and that, why couldn't DICE have made the rest of the DLCs this awesome? I'm really enjoying it, but honestly, I've really enjoyed all the DLCs. Even Close Quarters kind of surprised me in the end. Is Aftermath the best DLC since Back to Karkand? Well, it's certainly possible, and I think there are some people who actually might want to come back and try this even if you skipped all the rest of the DLCs. But honestly, for me, I think it's just a matter of DICE is perfecting their craft here. They have years and years of experience in Frostbite 2 now. They've honed their game, they know their tool set, they know their market, and what we're seeing here over a year now after the launch of the game is basically DICE just at the top of their game. And so of course it's going to be awesome. Would I recommend Battlefield 3 Aftermath? Absolutely. This DLC is fantastic, and if you enjoy Battlefield 3 at all, you're going to enjoy this DLC. And if you pick it up and it makes you kind of curious about the previous DLCs that you might have skipped, it is the Christmas season, which is sale season, so maybe keep an eye out for a sale on Battlefield 3 Premium, pick that up too and see what you've been missing out on. I know that I was kind of skeptical of the whole Battlefield Premium thing in the beginning, but honestly, it's just a compilation of all the DLC that's coming out for Battlefield 3. As someone who has put hundreds of hours into the game, and someone that really enjoys the game, I really can't argue with getting a good deal on more Battlefield 3. So, Aftermath gets a thumbs up from me. I hope that DICE continues their improvements as we come up to Battlefield 3 Endgame next year and the end of the Battlefield 3 DLC. I know that I'm excited for it, and I'll see you guys on the battlefield. Viking out.